Hi, Colin Katnack here, editor of Attendance Magazine. In this training video, I want to explore how the DfE bandings can positively influence decision-making, interventions and impact on attendance at your school. As the attendance champion in your school, you already know the challenge isn't just collecting data. The real challenge is turning that data into action. Action that is timely, targeted, and genuinely helps pupils attend well. That's where attendance bandings can make a real difference. In this video, we'll look at how DfE bandings can give you a practical framework for making those decisions with more precision and impact. We'll explore what the bandings actually are, how to interpret them in context, and how they can help you match the right level of response to the right pupils. By the end, you should feel more confident using attendance data to guide action, not just record it. DfE bandings group pupils by attendance range. That means, instead of looking at one long list of percentages, you can start to see meaningful patterns across your cohort. In practice, they help you move from isolated numbers to a clearer picture of which pupils may need universal support, which may need early intervention, and which may need a more intensive response. The value is not just in sorting data, it's in helping you decide where attention is most needed. That matters because bandings help you separate pupils whose attendance is just starting to dip from those whose absence is becoming more serious and sustained. A pupil showing emerging concern may need a quick conversation, closer monitoring, or a small adjustment before patterns become embedded. A pupil with entrenched absence is more likely to need a coordinated and sustained plan. So the banding helps you see not just that attendance is low, but how urgent and how layered your response may need to be. They also help you prioritize. You can quickly see where the greatest need sits and where earlier action could stop further decline. For attendance leads juggling limited time and resources that matters. Bandings can help you focus attention on pupils who may be tipping into risk, while also identifying those whose attendance picture suggests a more immediate and intensive response. In other words, they support smarter triage, so effort is directed where it can have the greatest impact. When you interpret bandings, the first question isn't just what number am I looking at, it's what story might this level of attendance be telling us about the pupil's experience. A percentage can point you towards concern, but it doesn't explain the reason behind it. So alongside the banding, you need to think about pattern, timing, family context, send, health needs, transitions, and any recent changes in the pupil's life. The banding gives you a signal. The context helps you understand what that signal means. A pupil whose attendance has moved slightly below expected levels may be showing an emerging concern. That often calls for curiosity, early contact, and light touch support before patterns become embedded. Early warning signs might include a small but noticeable drop over a few weeks, repeated absence on the same day, increasing lateness, or a change after a transition or family event. On their own, those signs may seem manageable, but if they're missed, they can build into a more established pattern. That's why timely response matters. Lower bandings can point to more entrenched absence, where barriers may be deeper, longer standing, or more complex. At that point, your response usually needs stronger coordination and follow-through. There may be overlapping factors such as anxiety, unmet additional needs, family pressures, transport issues, housing instability, or a breakdown in the pupil's connection to school. In cases like this, improvement rarely comes from one conversation or one short-term action. It often takes sustained support, clear planning, and consistent review over time. Attendance percentages on their own never give you the full picture. Two pupils can have the same percentage but very different attendance stories. One may have had a short period of illness and otherwise attend consistently. Another may be missing the same lesson every week, arriving late most mornings, or showing a pattern linked to anxiety or disengagement. So percentages matter, but they're only the starting point. To make good decisions, you need to look beyond the number and understand the pattern underneath it. That's why one-size-fits-all responses rarely work. Two pupils in the same banding may need very different interventions depending on their barriers, family context, patterns over time, and previous support. For example, one pupil may respond well to a quick check-in and improved homeschool communication. Another may need pastoral support, timetable adjustments, or involvement from external services. The banding helps you identify a level of concern, but it doesn't replace professional judgment about what support will actually help that pupil attend more regularly. In practice, bandings are most useful when they help you plan a graduated response. The banding doesn't replace professional judgment, but it does help structure it. It can guide you to think about the right starting point, the level of intensity needed, and when support may need to be increased or reviewed. So rather than dictating a fixed action, the banding helps frame better questions. What does this pupil need now? What have we already tried? And what level of support is proportionate at this stage? For pupils showing early signs of decline, your priority is often speed. A timely conversation, careful check-in, or small adjustment in support can prevent a much bigger issue later. That might mean contacting home early, noticing whether there is a pattern in missed sessions, checking how the pupil is experiencing school, or putting in place a simple practical support. The aim is to respond before absence becomes normalized. Early intervention is often most effective when it is prompt, curious, and proportionate. The goal is to match response to need. That means avoiding the temptation to over-intervene when a light touch response may be enough, but also recognizing when a minimal approach is no longer likely to help. Bandings can support that judgment by helping you scale your response more thoughtfully. Done well, this makes support feel proportionate, timely, and more likely to address the real barrier rather than simply react to the attendance figure. For pupils with persistent or severe absence, you may need a more coordinated approach across teams with agreed actions, accountability, and, where appropriate, escalation through your attendance processes. In these cases, isolated actions are rarely enough. Progress depends on everyone involved understanding the plan, their role within it, and the importance of following through consistently. When messages, expectations, and support are aligned across the school, families are more likely to experience the response as clear, joined up, and purposeful. What makes this impactful is not the label itself. It's using the banding to decide who needs what, when, and with what level of intensity. The real value comes when bandings improve decision-making, help teams act earlier, and support more proportionate use of time and resource. They should also help you review whether the response is actually working. If support is in place but attendance is not improving, the next question is whether the plan is effective, proportionate, and based on the right understanding of need. To use bandings well, build them into a regular review rhythm rather than treating them as a one-off snapshot. That might mean looking at them weekly for pupils causing immediate concern and more broadly at agreed points across the term for wider cohort review. The key is that bandings become part of an ongoing cycle. Notice change, discuss what it means, decide on action, and then come back to see whether that action is having the intended effect. That review is stronger when attendance leads, pastoral teams, and senior leaders are looking at the same picture and asking the same questions. Different staff roles often notice different parts of the story. A tutor may see daily routines, pastoral staff may understand wider barriers, and senior leaders may bring the broader view of strategy and resource. When those perspectives are brought together, interpretation becomes sharper and decisions are more likely to reflect the full picture around the pupil. You might ask where attendance is slipping fastest, which pupils are not responding to current support, and whether there are patterns by year group, vulnerability, or specific times of the week. You might also ask whether absence is concentrated around certain lessons, whether a pupil's attendance has changed after a key event, or whether support is being applied consistently across similar cases. Questions like these help move the discussion beyond headline figures and towards practical action. Better questions lead to better interventions. When review meetings focus on what is really changing, what barriers are most likely, and what support has actually been tried, the response becomes sharper. That improves both the quality of the intervention and the quality of the follow-up. You're not just doing something, you're choosing actions for a reason, and then checking whether that reason holds up in practice. And just as importantly, they help you review impact. Are strategies changing attendance, or are they simply creating activity without enough improvement for the pupils who need it most? That means being willing to adjust support when progress is limited, and to stop interventions that are taking time but not leading to change. Reviewing impact is not about proving that something was done. It's about checking whether what was done is helping the pupil attend more successfully.
As you reflect on your own practice, ask yourself whether your current attendance interventions are happening early enough to prevent patterns from becoming entrenched. Are you spotting the first signs of decline and acting while there is still a good opportunity to turn things around? Or are some pupils only receiving focused support once absence has already become much harder to shift? That question can tell you a lot about the strength of your early response. Think about whether support is genuinely targeted, or whether too many pupils are receiving the same response, regardless of their attendance banding and barriers. A generic approach may feel fair or efficient, but it can miss what is actually driving absence for individual pupils. More effective practice is usually more precise. It matches the level and type of support to the pattern, context, and likely barrier, rather than applying the same intervention to everyone. Consider too how confidently your team can explain why a particular intervention was chosen for a particular pupil at a particular time. Can staff clearly connect the attendance pattern, the context, and the support decision? Stronger practice is usually visible in that reasoning. It shows that intervention choices are not automatic or generic, but grounded in evidence, professional judgment, and a clear understanding of what the pupil may need next.
And finally, ask what evidence you are using to judge impact, refine next steps, and stop doing what is not making enough difference. Are you looking only at headline attendance movement, or also at pattern, engagement, consistency, and whether barriers are reducing over time? Good evaluation helps you see when support should continue, when it should change, and when an approach is no longer justified because it is not leading to improvement. Used thoughtfully, DfE bandings help you move from broad concern to sharper decision-making, so your attendance work becomes more timely, more targeted, and more likely to make a real difference. They help you identify needs earlier, respond more proportionately, and review impact with greater clarity. Most importantly, they support better professional conversations about what pupils need, when they need it, and whether your current approach is working. That's what turns attendance data into action that is purposeful, consistent, and more likely to improve outcomes. Finally, as always, if you have any questions about the content of this video, don't hesitate to reach out via LinkedIn. Until the next time, have a very successful week.